campfire and we're gonna sing a song.
That was beautiful.
Three boys on a bench. We already got 3 hit singles. First one is Don't Blindside Me, Baby. Second one is You Drive Me Coconuts. And third one is I Got Sand in All the Wrong Places.
Hello and welcome to Survivor Everything. I'm your host Liam, and can you believe that we actually got a great episode of Survivor from this season? Unlike the duds that we have been receiving so far, this might be the best episode of the season. Not that there was much competition, but the stark difference in quality and storytelling from episode 9 to episode 10 is astonishing, and at least the show might be able to course correct to a strong endgame from this point on. With a lot to discuss, let's get right into Survivor 49, episode 10. The aftermath of Alex being voted off and blindsiding Steven and Christina in the process brings up tensions around the camp. Christina is extremely upset to see Alex leave, threatens to quit, and it won't be the last time we see her this upset in the episode. You can tell Christina is just drained, and now being on the bottom, she just wants to leave. She does say that she can use her idol and be safe no matter what, but there's no drive here, and there's no confidence to get back in the game. When Rizzo got blindsided at the Nate vote, he was happy he was still in the game. He still had his idol, and being blindsided doesn't mean the end of his game. It can actually just open up more opportunities and people to play with.
Outside of Steven, I literally do not trust a single person left at this camp. The two of us went from the top knowing everything to the bottom not knowing anything. It's me now.
Christina has watched Rizzo, Savannah, and both Sophies all climb from being on the bottom and has major targets to go home to power positions, but I don't think Christina has the strategic ability to understand how they did it or that she can at least attempt to do it herself as well. Instead, she seems fine to just keep playing on the outs, play her idol to keep herself safe for one more round, and then get voted out the very next tribal council. It's riveting gameplay from Christina. I wonder why she wasn't chosen for Survivor 50. She's just so compelling to watch. Steven is also in a really horrible position, though unlike Christina, Steven immediately gets back into the game and starts talking to people and trying to rebuild some form of trust with them again. When Steven talks to Sophie B, the person he just tried to send home, Sophie B says it's alright but is lying through her teeth. As she says, it's not even Steven's. He needs to go. Steven also talks to Juwan, who is livid as I said he'd be, due to Steven only telling Stage and not Juwan about Christina's idol. I'm giving credit for Steven trying to fix his position in the game, but he has burned these people before and it's coming back to haunt him. I wouldn't be shocked if Steven was the next to go due to his social positioning and him being a challenge threat. At the reward challenge, we get a Liz-type freak out, but it's not nearly as fun. Now, I don't want to sound too critical of this scene, especially since Christina was, and probably still is going through a tough time due to the passing of her mom, but it's really hard for me to care here. I know that yet it gave Christina what I think was the first sob story of the season during the pre-merge, maybe the second person after Jake if you count him, but the show has done nothing else to make us care about Christina as a character or a player. I mean, the show is going out of its way to dunk on Christina as of late, especially at the end of this episode. Christina's freakout here solely relies on you caring for her and has nothing to do with the other players like Tony screaming at Cass and Llama or a gameplay move like Q not taking Liz on reward. This freakout is all about Christina and her backstory, which I just don't care about as it doesn't help the narrative of the show. It's a very cold and analytical approach on someone's true pain and hardship, but that's what we're here to do these reviews. Talk about what makes a good episode of Survivor and what makes a bad one.
Christina, is part of what's difficult about Survivor, maybe the most obvious, is that right now you don't have anybody to talk to that you know with certainty you can trust.
Jeff, I want my mom. I want my mom so bad right now.
The reward challenge itself is an obstacle course of water where at the end, 3 objects must make it onto a net or a hook or something like that, and that's it. We have seen this challenge 1,000 times in 1,000 variations. What's notable here is that Rizzo is hurting my analysis of saying that he is good at team-based challenges, as he almost struggles as much as Christina when getting across the balance beam, which is just hard to watch. Sylvia's cameo, which talks bad about Rizzo and mentions his lack of challenge prowess, makes more sense the more you watch the season. The Yellow team, which includes Rizzo, clearly doesn't win the challenge, sending Steven, Savannah, and both Sophies to the Sanctuary, where it's shockingly making its first appearance of the season. If Tribe swaps in a late merge that was also a normal merge round didn't convince you that Jeff is serious about changing the format of the game, not putting the Sanctuary as the location for every reward should really be nail in the coffin that the new era is soon to be a relic of the past.
Want to know what you're playing for?
Yes. Yeah.
For the first time this season,
Oh my God.
you'll be taken to the Sanctuary.
Finally.
Say it, Christina.
Where good things happen.
Absolutely, they do.
Back at camp, Rizzo, who hasn't participated in any food reports this season, breaks down in tears due to his depletion of energy and his relentless hunger. Again, the crying here is just alright, as I also don't find it too entertaining, but unlike Christina's outbursts, the editor is showing us Rizzo in a different light for us to sympathize with him. This works because Rizzo is a character that we as an audience are invested in. As well, Christina's outburst was going to need to be shown as it was done at the challenge in front of everyone, and it was also a setup to people cheering Christina on and use her mom as motivation so she could finish the balance beam at the reward challenge. Rizzo crying by himself here, and in a confessional nonetheless. It's clear that the edit doesn't have to be showing this, but it is to build him up since they want us to like Rizzo. And this is a character edit we see a lot in second place runner-ups. Juwan also gets a character moment here, with a segment of him just focused on fishing. Juwan keeps getting decent content from the show that paints him in a positive light, but the damage to his edit from the pre-merge has already cemented him as someone who can't win in my eyes, and I'll be proven right by the end of the episode.
So if we were back at home with my friends and they were sad, I would bust open some snacks. We don't got snacks out here. What I do have is the Hawaiian sling, so why not try to catch some fish?
On reward, we learn that Steven is like Lizzie Lauber, and he loves hot dogs. At least this reward not only gives him hot dogs with condiments, but a burger as well, putting the Survivor 47 dry hot dog reward to shame. Sophie S and Sage talk about getting rid of Savannah, but I don't think this is a good gameplay from Sage. Sophie S has voted with them the last 2 times, and if you're going to try and pressure her to turn against Rizzo and Savannah, Sage should wait until the immunity challenges come and when, so there's much more of a crunch time and urgency to the plan. Here, Sophie S can just agree to whatever, and relay this all back to the other 3 players that she's been working with. Sage does need to recruit, but this isn't the proper way. Back at camp, we get to hear the hottest boy band since NSYNC, 3 boys on a bench. This is what makes Survivor such a great show, and we get these small character moments, especially during the downtime of the game. In a horror movie, something the season loves to compare to, you should get to care and know about the characters in the film, so when they die, you actually care. Just like this season should make us care about people before they're voted out, and small moments like this accumulate to make sure that these people and their status is in the game. I just find Steven to be alright. And even though he is the main focus of the former Kina tribe, Steven has no chance of winning this game, but even people like my brother are hoping that Steven can, because they just like him, and it's the moments like this that build up for that. No one is saying, I can't wait for Christina to win the game. Savannah thinks Sage and Juwan are with them at the next vote, so she isn't worried about the 2, but Sage is targeting Savannah like her game depends on it. At this point, everyone is just being played, with Savannah not knowing that she doesn't have the numbers without Juwan and Sage, while Sage doesn't realize that she doesn't have the proper numbers without Sophie S. Sophie S here also realizes that she is a swing vote, allowing herself to side with either Juwan, Sage, Christina, and Steven, or side with Savannah, Rizzo, Sophie B, and make it a tie vote. And on top of that, Sophie S knows about Savannah's extra vote and how it could swing that way as well.
The plan has always, for me, been Savannah. However, she has saved her literal butt by winning immunity time and time again.
I really hope Savannah doesn't win immunity.
I know, that's the only thing.
We are getting down to really critical numbers. And if we don't break up this trio, the trio being Soph, Savannah, and Rizzo, we are screwed.
At the immunity challenge, Jeff decides to do a seasonal rights negotiation. And just like almost every other time in the new era, it's a failed concept that turns out to be a waste of the episode's runtime. Jeff says he's up for negotiations, and then when offers are thrown at him, he rejects them and shuts down the whole thing. What was the point of it? Especially after so many other players have turned down this same offer time and time again. No more rights negotiations, since they can't ever reach the quality of entertainment that it got to Survivor 45. The immunity challenge is standard fare, with it being an obstacle course and a Survivor logo puzzle at the end. Steven takes an early lead and was overtaken and dominated by Sophie S on the puzzle, showing once again that Steven, Savannah, and Sophie S are the 3 best competitors in these challenges.
What are you thinking right now, my friend?
I was gonna say half the bag for 2.
No.
I thought this was a negotiation, no?
It is a negotiation. Doesn't mean I have to say yes.
Back at camp, Steven now has a huge target on him due to being on the wrong side of the last couple tribals, as well as voting against Sophie B, Savannah, and Rizzo. Sage does have a good plan though, having the majority vote on Savannah, and in doing so, should flush out Rizzo's idol due to him thinking he needs to play it for himself, and hopefully Christina feels so threatened that she plays her idol as well. If Sage can flush 2 idols while getting rid of Savannah, it would be a game-winning move. We can tell from Sage's edit so far that she isn't winning, so I have a hunch this plan won't work either. Christina even has a good idea to make it a 4-3-1 split vote instead of a perceived 4-4. So if the minority plays their idol correctly on Savannah to save her, and Christina plays her idol correctly to save Steven, then a single vote that isn't negated will send Rizzo home. Now, I would find this to be a good plan, especially from a Wii player like Christina, but Sophie S has voted alongside Rizzo and Savannah for the last 2 tribals, and there's no reason to think that she would vote against them this time. This means this becomes a 4-4 vote without Christina splitting her sole vote onto Rizzo, which would make it a 4-3-1 vote in the favor of Christina's opposition, and it would mean that Juwan leaves anyways, no matter if she plays her idol on Steven or not. Christina's whole plan factors on 4 players targeting Steven exactly, which is such an obvious vote. It's easier for them just to target someone who isn't a valuable option for Christina to play her idol on and make it a safe vote. Christina's putting too much faith in the fact that Sophie S is with them as well, and that they're going to target Steven, which is just all wrong, making Christina's placement in my future season power ranking look very bleak by now.
Who else are you considering?
Like, who else are you considering? This is very just like, I know, it's just,
This is how I talk game.
okay. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, no,
'cause
take your time, take your time.
Yeah, I don't like that.
At Tribal Council, Rizzo and Savannah say that players do or die here, and we know from their placement in Survivor 50 that they surely will not be dying tonight. Before the vote, 2 idols are played. Just like Sage hoped, Christina wastes her idol, as she plays it on Steven, who has no votes on him, while Rizzo plays the idol he has in his pocket. The only difference between these two is that Rizzo is playing a fake one. Rizzo here is implementing a strategy we've seen before, where you play a fake idol and garner the other player's reactions in order to know if you should play the real idol or not. This was a ballsy play from Rizzo, as his read that they were on the right side of the votes was correct, but his opposition was voting for Savannah, and if Savannah hadn't played her extra vote, and Christina didn't throw a single vote on Rizzo like an idiot, then Rizzo had a chance to go home during a rock draw instead of a normal vote. If it were me, I would have played the idol already, but that's why he's the Riz God and I'm nothing but a mere mortal. At the end of Tribal Council, it was either going to be a blind side of Savannah or a blind side of Juwan, but we all know who has the worst edit here, so we know who's going to the jury. In a 5-3 to 1 vote, Savannah is using her extra vote in order to secure safety and take out Juwan, making him the 4th member of the jury.
11th person voted out and the 4th member of our jury. Juwan, need to bring me your torch?
Juwan?
Yo.
Sorry, buddy.
Raise your hand if you did it.
You got us, we got you, we love you. We love you.
Listen.
I've had my top 3 players to win locked in for weeks now, so starting with Sage. Next time on Survivor worries me as they're portraying her to look arrogant, setting her up to go. But Sage just seems like a 3rd place finalist that has her quirks that no one can get past, as well as her following along with Rizzo and Savannah too late in the game and losing the game due to it. Sage will have a hard time articulating how she is different from Rizzo and Savannah, who controlled the post-merge votes when she was a part of it, and how she played a strong game at the same time to see a jury that sees her as a disloyal ally who betrayed them and even betrayed the people she just worked with. Sage is just too flip-floppy right now, which makes a lot of enemies on the jury, and she's really lacking in social power right now, which puts more credence on why she can't win. Rizzo is in 2nd place, with him getting constant positive and funny character content, but we've seen this with Sam, Charlie, and Austin in recent years. Rizzo is a star of this game and a master player from this season, but the edit just reminds me too much of these players who got 2nd place, who you thought could win, but end up losing anyways. In 1st place is Savannah, the queen of Survivor 49 in her edit and presentation. Savannah is going to win the game, and I'll be shocked if she doesn't, because she has a personal attitude while also being highly strategic. I don't want to talk about Savannah too much more than I already have, especially with her being on Survivor 50, but watch the show on her edit closely and it's easy to tell that she is winning the whole thing. With the game now taking out people who were swinging in the middle, it should be an all-out war for Savannah, Rizzo, and Sophie B to make it to the final 3, with the numbers at a crucial point now. If they can keep Sophie S on their side, then the 4 of them will be in the final 4, and then they can just cut Sophie S. But I feel like Sophie S is too aware of her positioning to let that happen. So I can see the game shaking up once again. Join me next time when we discuss episode 11. Everyone grab your torches. I'll see you in the next one.
Totally blindsided me last time. So I want Sophie out. I would love to be able to look over at Juwan when her name is hopefully read and just have that moment of, I got you, man. Because in this game, when you piss me off, you go home.
At the start of episode 11, we get the usual aftermath of Juwan being voted out. Christina feels duped that she fell for getting her idol flushed, and Sophie S loses any sort of trust with Steve and Christina at this point. When Sophie S tries to talk to Sage, Sage is uncontrollably mad at Sophie S. I'll end up saying this again later when I bring it to a bigger point, but this episode shows a lot that Sage plays with her emotions, and those emotional plays were strategic ones at points, but not anymore. Sophie B and Rizzo talk, and Rizzo says as long as the 4 of them stick together for this next vote, they'll be out of the woods and an easy spot for them to make it to the final 3, and hopefully just cut Sophie S at fire making. Sophie B, though, pretends to start making other plans. Here, she discusses with Sage about taking out Rizzo and Savannah before the final 3, as they are both huge threats to win the game. Now, I want to believe that Sophie B would do something like this, but she has been a little bit of all bark and no bite this entire season. Even during the pre-merge, Sophie B teased the audience that she would stick with Jeremiah and attempt to vote out Alex when the Kelly tribe was down to just 3 members, but she stuck with the safe move and just targeted Jeremiah alongside Alex, even though she was safe no matter if the idol was played or not. Sure, she risked losing trust with Alex, but the tribe swap and the merge so that they just never work to each other again anyways, so in retrospect, it doesn't even matter. As well, Sophie B has been sitting on the knowledge as power advantage but seems content with just never playing it, as she knew about Christina's idol, even searching her bag and discovering it in person through a secret scene, and Sophie B just decides to never steal it. It's the same thing with Steven's advantage, where Sophie B can easily steal it, especially since Steven makes it public that he has one, and she still doesn't. Sophie B is not going to make this flip, and if she does, it'll be a totally useless point where the game can't be changed, almost like Sierra's flip in Blood vs. Water. Plus, if Sophie B was going to win the game, they would have shown the deleted scene of her looking through Christina's bag, since the show wants to portray the winner as smart, even if they don't make the smart move that episode or they end up being duped. A good example of this is Rachel in Survivor 47, who says that she'll play her idol if she thinks that the split vote is a ruse or an Operation Italy, and even though she doesn't end up doing it and one of her allies is voted out, the show still had to show that confessional to make the audience understand that the winner is smart enough to at least think about the worst case scenario and how to prevent it. This whole rant is just me saying that Sophie B is going to do nothing, and will do nothing. And it's a little annoying on the show to always try to make up this fake paranoia, like the audience can't see through it.
I've been working with Savannah and Rizzo for weeks now, and they are my main allies. I feel closer to them than some friends that I have back home. But when I look at my game and the bigger picture, very obvious that I'm number 3 in that trio.
We see a boat coming from the distance as the players are on the beach, and my immediate thought was, oh god, please don't let this be a journey that just eats up screen time, especially this late in the season, and it's exactly what it is. This is the start of this being one of Steven's best episodes though. With no one wanting to participate in this journey, it states it will be grueling physically wise. Steven, a player on the bottom, is more than happy about going on this journey and attempting to win something that could further his game some more. What's funny here is that we immediately hear from Savannah this is dangerous and Steven is a threat, but they're also hoping that this journey will zap all the energy from him and he won't be an issue for the next Immunity Challenge. And we will soon hear from Sophie S and Rizzo how horrible it is that Steven went on a journey since he ends up winning an advantage. Now, I don't understand why anyone on the main 4 alliance in this 7-player pool didn't fight to go on the journeys themselves, since they literally just could have just gone and sat around the other beach until a boat came to pick them up when the journey was over. It would be in the same vein of Parvati going to Exile Island in Micronesia and just relaxing since she already had possession of the hidden immunity idol. Not doing anything and just being lazy on that journey could have been a fun villain moment from a cocky main 4 alliance member, but instead, we get Steven crushing this challenge and winning a block vote, an advantage that poses a potential threat to them. Now, I could find letting Steven go on this journey to be a very strategic move on their plan, if it's to waste his energy, make him win the advantage, and then Sophie B just steals it from him, making everything he did only pointless, but actively hurting him by depleting his tank for the next challenge. This isn't the case though, so I have no clue why they let him go on this journey.
I'm like moved to tears from like the crazy feat that I just accomplished. Like, I didn't know I had that in me, and I came to Survivor to like really see what I could do. And like, I am capable of so much more than I give myself credit for.
When Steven gets back to camp, he makes it loud and clear that he won an advantage and he isn't afraid to use it. But Steven never discloses what the advantage is. Now this sends the camp in paranoia, especially Rizzo, who starts thinking about all the advantages in Survivor's history and what the show would most likely award someone during a new era journey. Rizzo comes up with the idea that Steven has won a steal a vote advantage, which is close, but what Steven actually has is weaker than that. One thing that really annoyed me here about Sophie B, almost more than her just sitting on her hands, is the fact that when Rizzo says he's afraid that Steven can steal a vote here at the final 7, Sophie B replies saying something along the lines of, so that will make it a tie vote, right? Simple math would dictate that Steven, Christina, and Sage all vote together, and if Steven steals someone's vote from the majority 4 right now, that Steven's side would become the majority vote and take out someone from that 4. Sophie B is just proving more and more that she is not cut out for the strategic side of the game, and really has let other players in her alliance do all the thinking for her. Rizzo talks to Steven directly, and he even has a weird conversation about wanting to work together, because if someone does get hurt by Steven's advantage, Rizzo wants to make sure it's not him. I know Sophie does have knowledge as power, but I'm not sure if she'd be able to play it on Steven successfully if he's already used it moments before to steal another player's vote at Tribal Council.
Rizzo pulls me aside. He thinks he's got the whole advantage thing figured out. He thinks it's a steal a vote, which is great news for me because that is like 1 tier more powerful than a block a vote. And if it's that more powerful, then that means he's that much more afraid of it, and it gives me more maneuverability to strike.
At the Immunity Challenge, which is also a reward, it turns out to be a twist on a classic Survivor challenge. Players must stack blocks that form the word immunity, spelling the word backwards as they stack the blocks, all while having to balance their stack so it doesn't topple over in the process. The change to this challenge is that instead of it being on a balance beam or making it more difficult and means like that, it's now stacking the blocks on a platform that spins and will topple the blocks if you go too fast. Now, I like the idea of changing up some classic challenges and seeing a new way it can look and be performed. The issue with this change, though, is that it specifically is making the challenge way too easy, with I think only 1 or maybe 0 people dropping their blocks and needing to restart the challenge, as we have always seen. Steven, the only male challenge star left from the season, wins the challenge without ever messing up, and is always in the lead throughout the entire time. Like I said, I like the idea of revamping some older challenges, but the changes need to make sense and not make the challenge easier. Steven wins immunity here, making the worst case scenario for a majority 4 come true. Steven, also being the winner, now has to make the choice of having 2 players come with him on board and eat with him. The first decision was Christina, which was an easy pick and the obvious one since they have been in an alliance and working together since day 1. The next player was a bit harder, especially since every player left has burned him in some way or another. But Steven decides to pick the only person who hasn't been on a food reward, Rizzo. You can tell him that a lot to Rizzo because he starts to cry over it, and he probably thought after blindsiding Steven back to back that he would never have been picked in the first place, so being chosen really caught him off guard.
All right, here we go. Today, you're gonna have 7 blocks that are gonna spell the word immunity. I think that's the right number of letters. From there, you're gonna put them on a platform where you're gonna be spinning it as you pull backwards. You're gonna need to keep those letters safe or from falling over. I can't do you as well.
At the spaghetti reward, Rizzo's fully prepared to get rid of Steven and Christina as soon as possible, but he throws out Sophie S as a decoy vote. This way, Rizzo's throwing out a person's name from his majority that he is most fine with going to the jury. It's a believable argument about Sophie S being a challenge threat, and it's a target that has burned both Steven and Christina. This is a really good play from Rizzo, and it entices Steven as well, since a unanimous vote onto Sophie S will let Steven keep his block of vote till the final 6, which is good because it can easily turn a tie vote then into a controlled blindside for Steven.
I am considering this plan, because if everyone's voting Sophie, that would mean I don't need to use my block of vote. That is huge, because that block of vote becomes 10 times more powerful at 6.
Back at camp, Sophie S plots with Sage to get rid of Savannah now that Steven is off the board tonight. This moment is when I realize that Sage isn't just an emotional player, but lets her emotions dictate her plays to her own detriment. Shannon left the game in the Premier due to Sage hating her. Then Nate was voted out in order to hurt Rizzo and Savannah, but, technically Sage wanted Savannah out that night. Then she voted for MC instead of Rizzo. Even the Alex vote was an emotional move and not the best one for her game. Sage even says in this episode, "In this game, when you piss me off, you go home." Which, for starters, isn't true since Savannah is still here, and for second, Sage seemed like she was doing the proper moves before, since the first couple of vote outs were original Uli, and that was due to her not liking them, but it will also put her into a better spot in the game. And we can argue the same for the MC boot, maybe. But voting out Alex was a huge mistake for Sage and keeping her numbers in the game, and now she has lost Juwan as well, making her laser focus on getting rid of Sophie S, who she thought was on their side, even though Sophie S was the only one to vote out Juwan that night. If anything, Sophie S seemed a bit shunned from original Hina tribe, which makes up a huge chunk of the jury, and even from the start of the game they didn't like her. And they would be mad at her as well for Sophie S joining Rizzo and Savannah and giving them the upper hand in the Uli versus Hina war. Other players like Rizzo and Savannah don't seem to trust her since Sophie S is a backstabber and they know that she would do it again. If Sage could make plans to swallow her pride and take Sophie S to the end, it's basically like competing in a final 2 instead of a final 3, since no one would vote for Sophie S to win the game after the amount of times that she's burned each player that be on the jury. Rizzo even says to himself during the food reward that Sophie S has had a perfect voting streak since she has started voting at the merge, so she has literally backstabbed everyone on that jury so far, which is more of a reason to keep her.
I'm putting a lot of trust right now in Sage, and she has actually been one of my enemies this entire time. But I know how badly Sage wants the revenge. So my hope tonight is to get Sophie out of here. And if I fail, I'll give you one guess at who's going home. Me.
Back from award, Rizzo immediately starts to talk strategy with Sophie B and Savannah. Something that Sophie S had pointed out a while back about Rizzo is that he is really attached to the hip with his ally members, and spends way more time when socializing with them than anyone else, and Sophie S brings this up that really annoyed her. If Rizzo gets to the end, I wouldn't be shocked if he lost votes due to the fact that he didn't have deeper conversations and socialize in general with most of the jury. Then they vote for someone like Savannah, who they've had more one-on-one conversations with. Sophie B also talks again about potentially flipping on Rizzo and Savannah and voting out Savannah, but we know from the unanimous decision tonight that that was never going to happen. The fact that the edit is trying to build this up, especially with us knowing who is on Survivor 50, it just feels so fabricated whenever this flip from Sophie B is mentioned. At Tribal Council, Sage almost cries just from looking at Juwan on the jury bench. Sage might be playing emotionally, which I don't respect, but I do respect her being so emotional and open during moments like this. You can tell from the cracks of her voice and the way her face is just contorting that she was really hurt and feels like she has lost something important to her with Juwan now at the game, and that genuine emotion coming out is pure and raw for TV. Juwan is also really fun to watch on the jury bench, with his reactions being great for TV as well, not just being dumb shocked faces like we've seen from the jury so often.
Sophie, that's 3 votes Sophie, 1 vote Savannah.
As always at this point, with my locked-in top 3, it's Sage in 3rd, Rizzo in 2nd, and Savannah in 1st. At this point, it's not even just my top 3 with the most win equity. This is what I think is clearly going to be 3rd, 2nd, and 1st place for the game as well. Just on their individual edits, makes a lot more sense for Sage to get to the end. Be hard to connect to with her weird personality, while also making it hard for the jury to like her, as she was on the wrong side of votes at points, while also doing Rizzo and Savannah's dirty work. Rizzo himself has had such a 2nd place edit, with him being a bigger character than Savannah and production probably liked him more, but the 2nd place edit is also stuff that makes fun of Rizzo, or just has more moments of him doing enjoyable stuff, which scares me more than anything for his win equity. This type of edit is always for the 2nd place runner-up, where you just get to have more fun with them, but that doesn't mean they're going to win. Savannah, on the other hand, is constantly being talked about as a threat, has a winner quote at the beginning of the season, and she's always painted as a strategist or someone who's just playing the game hard in general, if it's a good move or not. The players and jury seem to really respect Savannah as a game player, and I believe that will carry her to her win. Join me in the next review, where we only have 2 episodes left, and I see Steven leaving next round if he doesn't win immunity. Sage is on an island at this point, so no need to get rid of her right now, while Christina and Steven are still a clear duo with an advantage, and obviously Christina is no jury threat or challenge threat like Steven is. If Steven does win immunity, maybe it will be Sophie B who goes out, as there is still no real reason to get rid of Lonely Sage, and Christina is so bad that she can just be dragged to fire making, and then get sent home there, or literally just take Sophie B's spot at the final 3 as one of the biggest ghosts in Survivor history. And we only have 2 more episodes to find out. Everyone grab your torches, I'll see you in the next one.